Thanks. Caspar, I've noticed you, like on Monday at the talk, you use agency, but you don't use free will. Could you explain the difference? Because I'd always thought of them as essentially the same thing, but obviously there is a difference.
It was lovely to hear everybody's different ideas about what is actually going on, but the things that came to my mind were that there are things in language such as phrases under the influence, what came over them, overwhelmed, and I think that the collective unconscious and mass hysteria and things like that have some bearing on how clearly people can think in different situations. Plus, I think that things like family history, for example, can, if somebody's cursing some member of the family, that can follow through with how successful the children are, or what goes on in the marriages of people, and things like that. But very rarely, I think, are people actually going to be able to make a clear-headed decision 24 hours a day, because there are so many things influencing with, what is it, E equals MC squared? There's a lot of that going on to affect people's thought processes all of the time.
Rita, from what you're saying, it does seem to be a binary process that you're talking about in many different ways. It sort of reduces it to a particular decision. I mean, am I getting that right?
I'm just using that, what you mean, decision A or decision B?
Yes, A or B. It seems to be able to be reduced to that, and particularly, I think, that implies that there's going to be a sort of, that you could construct a computer that could basically do everything that a human being does. And you seem to be implying that from what you were saying, that you could actually have, because it is an A-B situation. Is that a fair assessment of what you were saying? And do you not think that there's a human capacity to have a conscious picture that's more complicated than an A-B kind of? My position as a historian on this whole debate is that, yes, life and history are a series of sort of accidents combined with decisions. Some intended consequences, but huge amounts of unintended consequences. Right. It does appear to me that when you look at history, that there are massive implications to many, many decisions. And if you look back on your life, the fact that you met your wife in a bar at this time, the accidental, the implications of your action are immense. Given that, when you kind of think about your children existing, it's an astounding kind of issue. And I always think, well, there is a certain amount of consciousness that you can see that go into decisions that make huge amounts of difference in historical thought. Just another reflection of a historian is that there are particular historical periods where people embrace fatalism, and ours is a period right now where people are embracing fatalism. They're saying we are fatalistic, and in fact these kind of theories are popular now. They wouldn't have been 40 years ago. They were, interestingly, in a period I look at, in the early part of the 20th century, where again the whole idea of action was something that was frowned upon, and human beings don't have any power really of action, and democratic ideas were frowned upon because, of course, it's an illusion, and that's the thing. We go through particular historical periods in intellectual history. We can group, our ideas are coming from a period of history. We're existing in a period of history right now, which is constrained by the various different aspects, what is happening around us. And I would have to say I would group your thought, Rita, in our particular historical period where we're embracing fatalism again. And I see deep parallels with the late 19th century and the early 20th century. And I could point to 7 different people who are arguing similar things. And therefore, you can bring,
Nice to be fashionable, for one. If I can come back to this rather interesting question about illusion. It seems to me that there are various different types of illusions. There are the ones that are produced by the brain which don't go away when you become aware of them. Necessary illusions which are created, as I understand, by very basic unconscious processes. For example, some of the visual illusions, colour illusions and so on and so forth, which you know perfectly well that, you know, colour A and colour B are actually the same. They look different because of where they're being arranged, but even when you know it and you know how it's done, they still look different because these are processes that are not subject to top-down control. You can't sort of consciously think your way out of them. And then there are illusions like the one that I think I'm talking about here, of the sense of self, which is a profound and deep illusion, but once you recognise that it's an illusion, you can start to undermine it. Not a good thing to do, but you can talk yourself or think yourself into a state which is actually a pathological state of mind, in which you lose your sense of self. I mean, it is a pathological state. It's probably got some name, something or other syndrome, which I forget at the moment, but, you know, people can do it. So I think illusion, as I'm meaning, and I think as is generally meant, are false ideas or perceptions or thoughts which are generated because the brain is actually evolved to produce those thoughts or feelings or perceptions. That's what I mean. Is that your understanding of it as well?
Yes, I'd call them shortcuts rather than illusions. But illusion has a certain element of irrationality, a certain tinge of irrationality about it, which I just don't like.
But that's incorrect. I mean, they're not necessarily irrational. They are, as you say, shortcuts, which have evolved actually to work 99.9% of the time in the world. And indeed, our sense of self is a healthy and useful shortcut. It's just it happens not, I believe, to have any real basis in fact. Could I also, while I've got that? Oh, God, I said to shut up. But I just want to say one thing, as well as the gentleman up here. This question really interests me about our desire to change our consciousness. It strikes me that's a very rational, sensible thing to do, because human consciousness we didn't evolve to have this particular type of consciousness for fun, to enjoy ourselves. We are as we are. Our consciousness is as it is for survival reasons. So we're given to anxiety because we're super vigilant, because in the past supervigilance probably saved us. We are, you know, we've evolved to constantly be wanting, grabbing, desiring, hungry, because we probably evolved in situations where you needed a high drive to do that, to find enough food. So we've got all sorts of things. I'm a great believer in, you know, the caveman mind in the 21st century. And so the state of mind that the optimum state of mind that evolved is not now optimum, I believe. And I think we could probably all benefit from a few nice drugs, probably on a nice low level.
Wait till the break.